A bipartisan group of lawmakers is headed to El Paso, Texas today amid the surge of migrants crossing the border. It follows Friday's dueling trips to the region by separate groups of Democratic and Republican Congress members. Meantime, President Biden says his administration will take steps to more quickly move hundreds of migrant youth out of cramped detention facilities. But as the political battle plays out, the stories we're hearing are still heartbreaking. This week, we learned a 9-year-old girl drowned while trying to cross the Rio Grande into the United States. NBC's Suzanne Gamboa is at a temporary shelter in Carrizo Springs, Texas, with the latest on the situation there. Suzanne, so happy to have you with me. What's going on there on ground?
Well, Tiffany, yesterday we had Congressman Joaquin Castro from San Antonio was here with several Democrats, and they were visiting this temporary center, trying to take a look at it. And they were actually pleased with what they saw. They felt like there was a lot more medical staff here. They felt like the kids were being properly treated in terms of COVID, separated, that sort of thing, and not neglected just because they, might have been positive. But, there's also this event that's going on in El Paso is interesting because you do have one Republican there, and this was all Democrats, and that was going on at the same time that a whole group of about 18 senators was meeting down in the valley, in Rio Grande Valley, about 300 miles from here. So that gap of mileage was really sort of indicative of what we're seeing in just the whole immigration debate, right. This large gap between the two parties.
Yeah. And Suzanne, I have to tell you, the framing around this conversation is, I think, frequently too political, even calling this a crisis. The truth is this is a humanitarian crisis. So you're standing outside a facility where children are housed. You said that the immigration conflict is self-inflicted by the United States. I'm curious, through a humane lens, what did you mean by that?
Well, through a humane lens, what I meant is, this happens. Migration happens. It's a human behavior. It's not something that we can stop because people look for survival. What you have right now is, in part, a response to drought and to disasters that happened, hurricane that happened down in Central America. And so people are just looking for, survival. And they're getting maybe misinformation or disinformation about whether or not the border is open. But they're sending children. I think this is something that people bring up often, that you have to be pretty desperate to send your children alone on such a long trip to be able to have a better life. I'm haunted by this story that came out during the Trump administration, and it was a 16-year-old boy that was in custody. He was I think he had the flu or something, and he passed away in custody. And one of the quotes he had, this was an AP story, one of the quotes in the story was from his mother saying, well, in our last conversation, he said, Mom, I pray that someone brings you corn, beans, or salt. It was very simple staples that they were looking for. So the desperation is something that has to be considered. And I think it's part of this whole political debate that's going on of deciding what kind of country we want to be. Do we want to be humanitarian? Do we want to be law enforcement? Is there any way you can bring the two together? And that is, when you see these two different groups up here, what's missing. Where are we bringing these two sides together that probably are never going to completely agree? When do you bring it together?
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.